name is Debbie Dalton. I'm with the Environmental Protection Agency's Conflict Prevention and Resolution Center. So I'm going to be coming at this from the dispute resolution perspective as opposed to the sort of wider democracy thing. I've been doing this for about 25 years. I started when I despaired of Superfund sites ever getting cleaned up because of the amount of disputes surrounding what the cleanup was, both with the communities and with the potentially responsible parties, otherwise known as polluters. And I transitioned. I got really tired of Superfund after about 10 years and thought, well, maybe I'll go try something else. And I started on regulatory development and helped pioneer the negotiated rulemaking concept. And the example I'm going to use is from negotiated rulemaking. Instead of using citizens at the grassroots level, involves representatives of interest groups on a federal advisory committee. This is where everybody goes. Anyway, federal advisory committees are good. Remember that, please. But we've been. I've had lots of experience. They really are good.
Yes, you have.
The example I'm going to use is from a negotiated rulemaking on controlling air pollution from equipment leaks, valves and flanges and pumps, hazardous air pollutants. And we had reached kind of an impasse with between the environmentalists and the industry with regard to how much could really be done. The environmentalists wanted every little place that it could leak monitored every month. And the industry just kept saying, it's too expensive, you don't understand all the technical problems. And it wasn't until the facilitator hauled the entire committee to Houston and visited 3 plants and made them look at valves and flanges that were 7 stories in the air with no ladder, that people started getting real and started really looking at where could we really, what were our needs as opposed to our positions with regard to that kind of thing. So that's my take.
Thanks, Debbie.
John Kamensky, I'm the Senior Fellow with the IBM Center for the Business of Government. I've had some experience with citizen participation over the past 16 years, but largely more with employee engagement. And with the Vice President Gore's Reinventing Government initiative, we created waivers for agencies to be able to do things on their own as opposed to relying on central control. We got involved with what we call Hammer Awards, which is recognition of organizations, units within agencies that are doing innovative things. And we sponsored Reinvention Labs, which were places of innovation in agencies across the government. One of those Reinvention Labs was something that I found very engaging, in that we presented a Hammer Award to them. It was, I remember going to Colorado, being in the governor's office, and bringing together the head of Bureau of Land Management, the head of the cattle owners in the area, the conservationists, and they were, and the people that wanted to use the land, and talking about how they were for the first time able to work together collaboratively as opposed to fighting with each other in court. Out of that effort came another initiative which we called Conversations with America, where we encouraged agency heads to go out into the field and talk to their clients or their agencies. And that was the first time many agency heads and senior regulators had actually gone and talked to people, much like finding what happens 70 feet in the air or so. So those are some of the initiatives that I was involved in, and currently at the IBM Center we're studying these kinds of things and sponsoring research.
Thanks, John.
I'm Marcia Keener with the National Park Service Department of the Interior. I work in the Office of Policy, but I also am the Deputy Dispute Resolution Specialist, working with 2 women who are here, Shayla Simmons and Elena Gonzalez. We work as a team on dispute resolution. One of the things that I would tell you about is that I work for an agency that is no more. It was abolished by James Watt. The Heritage Conservation Recreation Service was all about citizen engagement. The Urban Park and Recreation Recovery Act I handled the Federal Register notice for that, and also the nationwide recreation planning, working with localities and cities in their vision and what they wanted to see for healthy urban environments as well as rural areas. One of the things that I do in the Office of Policy is work with civic engagement. We coordinated the policy of civic engagement and public involvement. That was 2003. And this is based upon our field's experience. We have so many examples to tell you about in terms of even how we interpret the national parks. Civil War battlefields are not just merely battlefields with tactics and strategies, but we talk about slavery as a causative factor of the Civil War. And so we have to tell the truth. We have to tell our stories faithfully and with great involvement of all of those involved, including underserved communities and people who would not normally relate to national parks. We have stories for them. The most impacting kind of thing I did was witness as a friend of the Rappahannock. Thank you for my seniors here who had Chesapeake Bay experience, because I, through an employee grant from the National Park Service, helped form a citizen group, a 501c3, the Friends of the Rappahannock. But hearing the Army Corps of Engineers say that it was a group like ours that helped them blow up the only impediment to migratory fish passage on the Rappahannock, and that we were the main reason why that happened, was wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Jensen, I'm Director of External Affairs for FEMA. I've got 25 years in strategic and public communication. Fairly new to FEMA. Most of my time was with the Department of Defense, a very different type of focus on things. One of the things I got to tell you about FEMA that I really like is that it really does look at what we're doing to help the American public, especially in their greatest time of need. Some of the things I want to talk about that really have struck me in the short time I've been with FEMA are our efforts to help the American public get prepared. So we have a program called Ready.gov. We have things called Citizen Corps, which are created directly with folks out in communities to help the communities help themselves and learn about preparedness. These are really important things for us to get that information out there. But we have a national level, but most of our focus is at the local level. You can probably imagine we get a lot of feedback from the American public on whether they think we're doing a good job or not. That's really important to us, and a lot of what we do is public information, whether it's through town halls. During a disaster, you can't use your normal media many times to get the information out. I know John Shea, who works on my team, is looking at some of the innovative things we're doing, so in the future we may be able to send people information through reverse 911, some other ways that, when there's no power, people can't watch TV, they maybe can't even listen to radio because they don't have electricity. How do we get that information out? I think other folks have already talked about the special needs and underserved, and also the second language groups. Right now we're working in North Dakota. We've identified 7 major groups. There are language groups that are not English speakers. So we've got like the Vietnamese, the Chinese, the Hmong, Spanish speakers, and so we want to make sure that we're getting that information out too, because literally it could be life or death for some of these folks. So and it's really important for us to make sure that we're looking at what the citizens need.
I'm Leanne Nurse. I'm a program analyst at EPA's National Center for Environmental Innovation. I've been doing this work for most of my life, starting in communities in the 60s and 70s in the public and commercial television world in the 70s and 80s, and at EPA since '89. The one incident that really struck me and showed how valuable well-coordinated public participation can be was when a group of urban refugee families, as I refer to them, moved out of Baltimore and D.C. and came down to St. Mary's County in southern Maryland. Their brokers didn't tell them they were living next to a planned incinerator for a Superfund site. So when yours truly came to do the home visits, they were fairly hysterical. They had young children going into school, and they were quite frightened. So over a series of extremely difficult conversations, which concluded in a week-long series of meetings and visits from our management, I basically demanded, I don't know how they agreed to it, I think they were afraid of Senator Mikulski, managed to get themselves down there and actually listen to these people. We did it live on the local cable channel with the help of League of Women Voters, and in the end, the community itself was able to create a different remedy which worked for them, protected the safety, and saved the agency money.